Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll just share my screen. Oh dear. I'm going to start again.
It's all right. In the meantime, you can see the link to Vivox in the chat. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please go there.
Okay, let's try again. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be joining you here today at this conference. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of my career up to now. Oh. So first of all, I'm a materials engineer at Nordson XRAY. I'm from a place called Newtownards in Northern Ireland, and I did my A-levels in maths, further maths, physics and chemistry. I then came to Southampton and did my Masters of Physics at the University of Southampton. So I used to go to quite a lot of the careers talks, and they were usually very helpful. And that's where I heard about the Southeastern Physics Network, and they offer these SETNet summer placements. So I went to the student services and they helped me to get my CV up to scratch. So I put a lot of effort into applying for those summer placements, and it was worthwhile because I really enjoyed the placement. And then I finished my final year and then went back and took on a graduate process engineer role at Leonardo. I worked there for 3.5 years, and then I joined another company called Vivamos, which was a startup, and I worked there as a production engineer. In September last year, we were acquired by Nordson, which is a big corporation. And so I'm working in the same environment, but just with a different owner. And I'm transitioning into a materials engineer position and supporting that with a Master's of Research at the University of Nottingham. So at Leonardo, I worked with thermal imaging applications. So you might have seen them on Planet Earth 2 or Spring Watch or Autumn Watch. So for example, you've got a jaguar, an elephant. This is my favorite one here. It's a gorilla, and you can see the really high resolution of the camera of a sleeping gorilla there. So that was a really great opportunity and a great place to start my career, because they had a big clean room, all these really high-tech machines, and I just wanted to learn how to use all of them. And there was people there that had been working there for, some people up to 50 years with infrared technology, and they had so much knowledge to share. So I just learned so much in my time there. And my favorite project while working there was a space project. So we were making the detectors that were the payload for an Earth observation satellite. So it's there's one up in space at the minute, which gives us our weather information. And this is for the next generation one that's going to launch. So looking at the temperature of the clouds. So that was really exciting to work with. So then another part of Leonardo was the graduate scheme. So I would really recommend, if you can join a graduate scheme, join a graduate scheme, because it's a bit of a gentle way to enter industry, because you go with a cohort of peers, so you're sharing the experience. You also get a lot of professional training, you know, how to project manage, how to work with other people, and personal development as well, which is this nice triangle in the middle. If you've ever done them before, you find out if you're a sort of a red, blue, green person, and it just helps you understand how to work with other people. As well, there's benefits. We got to go to Rome, because Leonardo is an Italian company, and we do an international project with them, and also it's a good chance to make friends as well. You know, we went and had a holiday just ourselves on the graduate scheme. So after 3.5 years, I was really happy at Leonardo, but I had heard some advice that you shouldn't get too comfortable. So I was offered a position as a production engineer at a startup in Southampton, and I thought, well, I want to see what it's like somewhere else. So I joined VivaMOS, and at VivaMOS we make X-ray detectors for lots of different applications. It's a spin out from the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory, the Diamond Light Source in Oxford. So they make, there's a CMOS detector group there, and they developed this really low noise detector, and they actually found it was better than anything on the market. So they put it into industry. So there's a picture of the group when I joined. So we were quite small. And now, after 3 years working in there, we were acquired by Nordson. So we're now a new branch of Nordson called Nordson XRAY. But yeah, we still have the same startup mentality. Still based in Southampton. That's a picture I took the other day at the science park. So at Nordson, I was working as a production engineer, so making these detectors, which, for example, I've got a picture of a PCB, and that's what it looks like under X-ray. And I also wanted to learn a bit more. I'd always been playing with the idea of maybe going back and doing a PhD, but I didn't want to leave industry. So I went to an Institute of Physics talk, actually, and there was a guy speaking there about masters relating to industry at Nottingham. So I'm doing a Master's of Research in Materials at Nottingham, supporting new product development at Nordson. So if you would like to get in touch, that's my email address there, amy.hearst@nordson.com. And we're actually hiring for 3 new positions at the Southampton branch. So you can have a look on LinkedIn if you're interested. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. There's actually a LinkedIn group, so maybe we can share the link there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, will do.
Amazing. So Izzy, can you share your slides, please?
Yes. Okay. How's that looking?
Amazing.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name's Izzie Clarke. I am a science journalist and podcast producer. So I co-host and produce the Supermassive Podcast for the Royal Astronomical Society. That is a astronomy podcast for quite a general audience. I do that with my co-host, Dr. Becky Smethurst from the University of Oxford. I'm also a senior producer at a company called Fresh Air, and I make 3 different series with them. One is about climate change, another one is about ocean conservation, and a third one is about the future of robotics. So I've come from a physics degree, and I'm now doing a little bit of everything in these podcasts. So my journey, I went to the University of Nottingham, where I studied, I did an integrated master's in physics there. Unfortunately, the only picture I have of myself in a lab is this rather fetching one from UCAS Day. But in my spare time, I was doing student radio, and it was just, I had a weekly program. It was just games, playing the latest music, and it was just a hobby until in my final year. Every year they have the Student Radio Awards, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have a go and enter for the Best Female Presenter Award, and I won that. And so that was the beginning where I realised, oh, perhaps there's a job for me in radio. Maybe I should explore this a bit further. And so, you know, fast forward to today, I never thought I'd be making, you know, these programs. Last year, I made the Call of the Wild podcast, which is for WWF, and the last person I saw before the first lockdown was Sir David Attenborough. And you know, for the Supermassive Podcast, we recently interviewed Dame Jocelyn Bell-Burnell, who I know you'll hear from later. She's amazing, and that episode went out yesterday. And it's just, I never thought I'd be speaking to these people, let alone have this as a job. So it started, I've sort of gone through my university experiences. After university, having won the award, I decided I would give this a go, give media a go. And so I did lots of internships, which were tricky, but you've got to, you know, take whatever opportunities you can. And this was all for music radio. And I got to be an assistant producer at Radio 1 and Radio 2. And after about 18 months, I missed like the challenge of physics and science. And, you know, safe to say, if you're doing a physics degree, it is challenging. And so I started to look for those routes of, okay, how can I combine my physics experience with my media experience? And maybe there's a route for me that way. And essentially, I guess hustled is the best way I can describe it, where you just find producers that you like, the shows that they make, and you ask questions and see if anyone's got opportunities. And after a year of, you know, building up those experiences and working on lots of different things, I realized that science radio was exactly what I wanted to do. I'd had a go at working on the Christmas lectures where I was designing experiments. I'd done some music TV shows, which were fun, but I couldn't see my career going in that direction. So in 2017, I joined The Naked Scientist as a producer and a presenter. And I would say this is when like all of that experience of physics and media came together. You know, it's crucial to have an understanding of, you know, key concepts and then almost translate that down into a public audience. It's great if you're sitting there with your physics degree and be like, I know how this works, but you have to almost translate that science to an audience. And I got to make documentaries for them. We made a weekly show that went out on BBC 5 Live and nationally in Australia as well. And it's a really popular podcast. And then after sort of 2.5 years there, I decided that it was time for my next opportunity and I wanted to move on. And so that's when I went freelance. And that, you know, sort of takes me to today, where I make the Supermassive Podcast, Call of the Wild, Ocean Matters, the Robot Podcast. And it's been an interesting journey, but I think if anyone is interested in journalism, now is a brilliant time to be making podcasts, YouTube series, things like that, because you find your community and there is a big one out there, especially for podcasts and niche podcasts as well. I'm sure we'll have questions later, but I really just want to say that I think there is some really brilliant opportunities of how having a degree in physics can overlap with working in media. You know, you sort of are good at problem solving, which is always good when you're working with live things. Communication is really important. That's another one that springs to mind. And just, I guess, having hard work and patience sometimes, or certainly when I was a physics student, I needed to sit down, really work out what was the question in front of me, whether that's coursework or exams. And it just takes a little bit of time. And it's the same for like telling science stories, which is essentially what I think podcasting in science content is doing. So very happy to take on questions, to be contacted on Twitter. My DMs are open, so that's absolutely fine. Or on my website, there's a contact form and I'll get that. And if I can be really cheeky and you want to have a listen to some podcasts, then these are the ones I make. So feel free to have a listen to those as well. Thanks very much.
That is great, thank you. Okay, and now it's time for our last panelist, Luisa.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, I see, 1 sec. Sure. How about now? It says it's sharing. Is it not
Yep,
sharing?
it's perfect.
Okay. So in my case, so my name is Luisa Morales-Rueda. As you can see, I'm not from here. Well, I am from here now. I've been here for a long time, but I didn't start here in the UK. And when I finished my degree, I didn't go straight into industry. So I changed halfway through my career. So I did my degree in Madrid. And I did my degree in physics, theoretical physics, but I knew that I wanted to do astrophysics. So I applied for an exchange abroad program, which is a year going to the States to do astronomy. And I did that. And after that, I was certain that I wanted to do a PhD in astronomy. So I came to the UK and I did my PhD at the University of Sussex. And after that, my PhD was on binary stars. So I did optical spectroscopy of binary stars, in particular cataclysmic variables, which are the ones here you can see on the left. And after that, academic research, I really wanted to continue. So I got a postdoc position at the University of Southampton on the same subject, then another postdoc also on the University of Southampton, but doing instrumentation for telescopes. And after, I realized that, once the postdoc finished here, I searched around and I ended up going to the Netherlands for another 3.5 years on another postdoc. So all in all, since I finished my degree, I had to spend 12 years traveling and doing academic research. I loved it, but I realized that, doing this research was a bit incompatible with having a family. Because my next options were going to Cape Town or going to Chile. It all sounded great. But when I went to the Netherlands, my husband stayed behind here in the UK. So we were 3.5 years apart. And I came back from the Netherlands about to have a baby. And I thought, yeah, this is not going to happen. I don't want to be moving every 3 years with a family behind me. So I reconsidered, where would I go if I stopped doing astronomy. I knew I had transferable skills. So I went back to the university and asked if there was any lecturing I could do. There was a position, a part-time lecturer doing applied nuclear physics, which is a subject that I hadn't touched since my undergraduate years, but actually I enjoyed quite a lot teaching. And at the same time, I had an opportunity arise to join a company that had a spun out also from the University of Southampton. It was formed by some friends that were working in the same corridor as me when I was doing my postdoc. And some of my friends that were doing astronomy had joined that company. And I thought, why not? And that's when I joined Symetrica, doing nuclear physics. We developed a gamma and neutron detection technology. I started testing systems. We build detection technology that goes, from these massive portals that you see on the left that scan cargo containers for any containers that arrive by sea. So in ports, all these systems are deployed in ports and in borders, and they are searching for radioactive materials that emit in the gamma or neutron. And I still do a spectroscopy. So I realized, a spectroscopy I like. But instead of in the optical, like I did when I was doing astronomy, I'm doing it in the gamma energy range. And we developed not only these portals, but also handheld technology that is used by the police and by the military to identify these radiological threats. And also mobile systems. We embed our detectors in cars, and they can be deployed in cities, in big gatherings, looking for threats that could be used as dirty bombs dispersed. We develop also pedestrian portals for, they could be used in hospitals or, and we develop systems for all industry, but mostly our systems are deployed at airports, ports, and borders. Then the challenges that the main challenges that I've faced in my career, I would say, is life balance. So the career, and for me, it was career and family. So when I went to the States, I had the opportunity to do my PhD there, but I thought the States was too far from Spain, and I didn't want to be so far from my family. So that was my first decision, and that's why I came here. The UK is much closer, and I could still find great research to do. And then again, the change from astronomy to nuclear science was also because of family. And that was, has been one of the things that has actually made my path. And then, the male-dominated world has, this mention has appeared in other talks. It is true, since the start, since my years at university until now, I've been in groups where I was the only female physicist. I am the only female physicist at the moment at Symetrica. Thankfully, that's going to change. We've hired a female physicist that starts in August. She's just finishing her degree now at Southampton, and she's going to join us. There's been others, but somehow not that many. And this goes also for engineers, production managers. There seems to be very few women. For me, now it's not so much of a problem. It was more of a problem at the beginning of my career, mainly in Spain. And it was not just the male-dominated world, but also senior, wasn't taken seriously by senior male physicists in Spain. And not when I was doing, when I was an undergraduate, definitely. So I've had to make myself heard. Even at the company where I'm now, at the beginning, I was talked over often in meetings, and I had to make noise. And I had people, I realized later on that they thought I was, a very strong character, and were a bit not afraid of me, but because I did not want to not push if I was pushed. And it helps to be resilient, definitely, to stay in the field. And what has helped me too throughout my career is leaning on other women that were in the same circumstances as me. So my classmates when I was doing undergraduate, and then role models. There was always good role models around me, good physicists, and that I always looked at them and say, think if they can, then I can. I don't see why not. And in industry, good mentoring is very important. So although astronomy was hard, leaving astronomy was hard for me, I realized that I could enjoy doing other physics, and because it could be as interesting and as rewarding. And this is my contact details. Amy was talking about SEPNet. We have SEPNet students every summer, and the student that is joining us, the physicist that is joining us in August, was a student with us for a few months. So we would like more female students to apply. My company, they want to be diverse. They don't like the fact, it's a young company. They want to have more women in their payroll, definitely. So look at us in our website, and we have, and our LinkedIn also we post positions and opportunities there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luisa. Thank you so much. So before we continue with the questions from the participants, would you like to tell us what you would like to have known when you were an undergraduate student? Luisa, do you want to start?
Okay. Let's see. I did. Let me see. What would I have liked to know? That it wasn't going to be easy. I used to think, no, family will not, I'm strong. I know what I want. I will just plow in and, go for it. Life perspective changes with time. And maybe it wouldn't have failed me, but perhaps it would have been less hard, in hindsight, to realize that, there's other things in life other than career. Career is important, but friends and family are very important too. So I think
you still have to learn that. Yeah. Izzy?
I wish that I had known not to worry as much. I think there is no doubt there's a lot of pressure on you at university, but one, it's absolutely okay to ask for help, and that it will be okay. It will be okay. And it's fine to, at moments, to feel that, things can get on top of you, but actually there is always help. And I think as soon as you start speaking to people, whether that's your peers, whether that's, your tutor, asking for help is fine. And I think I think we probably might talk about imposter syndrome later. But also you absolutely deserve to be where you are. I think it's just definitely a confidence thing, because you absolutely can do it. And I think that is what I wish I had known sooner.
Thank you. Absolutely, we have to know that. And Amy?
I think I wish I would have known that everyone has their own path, that you shouldn't compare with the people around you. I think a lot of people in physics were probably similar, that you're used to at school, like exams might have been a breeze, and then you get to uni and suddenly everything's really hard. And I think I felt like everybody else knew what was going on, and I didn't. But then it turns out, everyone's sort of pretending to know what's going on. Yeah, just follow your own path. And as well, when you start a job, don't expect it to be perfect or glamorous straight away. It takes a while to figure out what you want to do and to get good at it as well. So.
Thank you. So we have a quick change of plans. If you want to ask a question, can you raise your hand? Okay, then we'll be looking at Vivek's questions then. So first we have a question for Izzy. I think.
I think it might have been, was it about the podcast recommendations?
I guess.
I think I saw that. I know this is going to sound so like just because I make it, but I'm really proud of the Supermassive Podcast purely because it's hosted by two women, and we are always speaking to incredible women working within physics and astrophysics. So that's the Supermassive Podcast with the Royal Astronomical Society. Other ones that I really enjoy, there's another one called Space Boffins, which is more space flight rather than, the latest research in astronomy. So that's a bit lighter. I listened to a really good one. I think it was from NPR. I can't remember what it was called, which is really annoying, but it was all about how these people lived in pods, essentially, in South America, training for Mars, and if you were trying to resimulate what life on Mars would be like. So they lived in these little pods, and it's really fascinating. It was made, I think, in 2017, and how they compare their isolation, and looking at how we've lived in lockdown in the past year, it's really, really weird similarities. I'll be on the chat later, so I'll go and find out what it's called and I'll let you know.
Thank you so much. Okay. I'm sorry, we have technical problems sharing the questions. So,
I saw one about the postgrad year. What is, so briefly, so I can answer that maybe.
Yes, please.
So this is a program, I'm not sure if you get many programs like that here, but in Spain it was 1 year. It was called Exchange Abroad Program. And the idea was that you would go to a different university in the world. In this case was in the States, in Berkeley, do a year there and then come back and do your PhD in Spain. But I had talked to one of the lecturers in Spain, and says, you don't have to come back and do your PhD. You can stay there and do it if you want. So it was a great opportunity for me to go. There were other opportunities then, Erasmus, to go and do bits in other countries. I had a summer fellowship in the Canary Islands in the Institute of Astrophysics. So I used to look for anything that I could do over the summer, any fellowships abroad. I knew I wanted to leave, to travel and do research in other places. So I'm sure the opportunities are there, but they might be different these days.
Thank you. I managed to share the questions. I'm sorry they're not as pretty as they usually are.
I read another one for me. I could answer. I just saw one in the chat.
Yes.
So would I have stayed in Spain if there had been opportunities for me? I probably would have come back. I would have gone back to Spain. So my plan was to do my PhD abroad because I wanted to travel and see what research was like abroad. And I did try to come back, but it was very difficult. There were very few positions in Spain. You needed to have contacts to go back. And I think you needed to have contacts to stay also. When I left, if you did not have contacts, then you could not really get a PhD position or a postdoc there. And many of my friends in astronomy that tried to go back, Spanish people that I've met in the States and here, they tried to go back and maybe one managed out of 10%, and some of them left again because the opportunities were not that good. So things may have changed, but yeah. It's different if you are from the Canary Islands because there's a lot of astronomy there. There's the Institute of Astrophysics in Tenerife, and there are more opportunities than the IAC did. So I almost went to the IAC, and you could become, if you like, working at the observatory. There's opportunities working at the observatory as an astronomer. So I would have done that too, yes. But by then, I was here and I was happy doing research here. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, of course, I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you so much. Actually, I have a friend who tried to get a PhD in Spain, and it was really difficult to get a paid PhD position.
Yeah.
So
if you finance it yourself,
everyone wants you to work for them, but they don't want to give you money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So can we start with the first question? Over the past year, a large number of internships were canceled due to COVID-19. Do you have any suggestions of how you can get experience despite that? So Izzy, you're nodding, so would you like to start first?
Yeah, so I think if you're looking to get into journalism, a lot of that is quite self-starter. I think what works is if you don't have experience, that's fine because you can make up for it with enthusiasm and projects that you can start yourself. There's never been a better time to, get things on YouTube, start your own blog. All of our phones have microphones in them. Perhaps you want to have a go making a podcast and you can get free software to edit that audio. So I think there comes a point when things will open up and you can say, okay, here's what I have made. I've written articles about, maybe you're taking the latest papers in Nature and Science and you're writing about them on your blog or something like that, or you're reviewing them on YouTube, or maybe it's again just an engaging video or podcast as to why you think this is really interesting, because when you're all starting to apply for jobs, so many people will be in the same situation. When you're fresh out of university, no one expects you to have, years and years of experience. So just show them what you have in terms of enthusiasm, passion, and interest in your subject. And, and that will speak volumes.
Thank you. Amy, would you like to add up to that?
Yes. So I think something I didn't realize before I got into industry was that sometimes HR departments or people in general can be very busy and don't have time to do the formal process of setting up an internship and getting all that set up. So, but they are in general quite happy to teach you or have you around for a week informally. So I would say if you're interested in a company, there isn't any harm in just calling them or emailing them and asking, can I just shadow someone for a week? You don't need to pay me or whatever, because that experience can just make you really stand out on your CV. Saying that you've done that can make you stand out, so that when you do apply for a paid internship, you've got a better chance to get it.
Is it possible to do that at the moment with the situation of the pandemic?
You might be able to ask that you can join virtually. So can I listen in on video conferences and things. But I know that in manufacturing, we're still planning to have our summer students, because we're in manufacturing, we have to stay open, still going to the office, and you just have to follow COVID guidelines. So yeah, we're still planning our internships.
That's great.
Yeah.
Luisa, do you know if you have internships?
Same as Amy. Well, I think the best thing is to contact the company Symetrica directly. And so we had students still during the pandemic joining us either from their houses, or if they were doing work that required using instrumentation, they were coming to the office following COVID rules. So, and again, the production plant is open. So, yeah, that's, if you need to do work with instrumentation, you have to come to the office anyway. So, yeah. So the best thing is to contact us, indeed.
I think that's a great advice. Okay, then we move on to the next question. If we are talked over and ignored, what advice do you have for us to make ourselves heard? Amy, would you like to start?
Yes, sure. So I think at school, maybe even at uni, I was pretty quiet, and I would always just have spoken when spoken to type thing. But industry has really helped bring up my confidence. And what I find is not being afraid to be annoying and irritate people and come across like that. I actually quite enjoy it now. So just you just have to learn by experience and just put yourself out there, and people might argue with you, argue back. It's quite liberating, I think, to speak up and value your own opinion. It makes it more relaxed as well when you're working with people, because people know that you're being honest and people are honest with you. It makes a much better working environment than letting people talk over you and resenting it,
So that's how you survived in that team with men only.
Yes, I'm very, people describe me as tenacious now.
Same here, actually. As I said, there was a time when I thought they were a bit scared of me, and I didn't understand why. And it's because if they talked over me in meetings, I would just say, "Excuse me, I have not finished." And yeah.
I was going to
that's
say,
amazing. Thank you for doing that for the next generation of physicists.
Yeah,
it's a powerful word, saying I'm not finished. Yeah. Let people know that they're talking over you. Say, sorry, I haven't made my, and in fact, don't even apologize. That's one thing I did want to say, is don't apologize. I think that was one thing that I had to learn, is just don't apologize. If you make a mistake, okay, fair enough for certain circumstances, but don't say sorry for unnecessary reasons. You don't need to.
Oh, that's hard to do. Okay, then you have a question for Luisa. What were the most important transferable skills that allowed you to switch to a different area of physics?
So, as I said, I had been working on instrumentation in astronomy. I was a hands-on astronomer, so I went observing, and I work with telescopes and spectrographs. So when the opportunity in Symetrica came, actually was to work with the detectors, the systems. So I was testing them. I've been doing a spectroscopy in astronomy, identifying lines, see how they moved. I had the software, packaging. Well, I had developed code and software packages to analyze optical spectra. What I was doing then for this company was doing gamma spectroscopy. I was identifying line to identify isotopes. I was using almost the same algorithms that I had been using for astronomy. And to be honest, it is the way your mind works. Physics is physics. It's the same physics, to be honest. So if you learn, for nuclear physics, I just needed to learn how the detectors responded to different radiation, gamma radiation, neutron radiation. It has a lot of in common with some areas of astronomy, with gamma astronomy, I'm sure, So those are transferable skills, and the mathematics are transferable skills. So all of that. I don't know if, Amy agrees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great.
I think I managed to skip a question. Oh no, I haven't. All right. So our next question is, being the only woman in your work, are they supportive with you as a role model? I assume? Oh, sorry, I cannot read. I'm failing at all abilities. Were you being supported in your role as a mother? I assume that's a question from Luisa as well.
Yeah. Yes. One thing that Symetrica has, which is, I was worried about going from university, because university is pretty relaxed. They are very flexible. You can do your research at your own time. They don't tell you being here at 9 and leave at 5. Symetrica is very, because it started from the university, and the people that are there still have a bit of a university mentality. There's a lot of research and development going. It's really flexible. People, they know I have children, so I leave to pick them up for school. I put it in my diary, and I say from this time to this time I'm busy, I'm with children. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people with children, and there's men that have then followed and have done the same as me. So they realize, oh, so, she does that, so I'll do it too. So they also leave early to pick up their children and then come back later. So they are, I don't know if all the companies are like that, but definitely Symetrica is very flexible, and they've been very supportive, definitely. I used to bring my children when they were babies. I'll come for an hour to read my email, to keep in touch with my colleagues while I was still in maternity leave, and I'll just bring the baby, leave him sleeping, do a bit of networking. Well, so yes.
So that is great. So if you want to be a mother, you can go and work for Symetrica.
Hopefully more companies are becoming more flexible. Not just, for mothers, for fathers. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's something very important. You shouldn't be made to choose between your career and having a family.
Yeah.
So we have a question for Izzy. I love writing public communication of science. How can I get to write for a newspaper or other media?
That's brilliant. And we certainly need more science writers. So I would say, again, this sort of links back to what I was saying before, think of somewhere that you can write for yourself and host it. I would start off with, your own science blog and work on different writing techniques. So perhaps do one which is a feature article. It's quite a long piece. Maybe you want to do an explainer, and just so you can basically build, what you're doing is building up a portfolio of all of your writing and your styles, that when you want to start contacting people, you can say, hello, here I am, I'm brilliant, and look at all of the stuff that I've written. I'd love to write something similar for you, and come to companies, whether that's, the New Scientist or smaller blogs, with some ideas that are maybe of what you'd like to write.
इसकी ना अचानक से ब्लैक हुई थी, ठीक हो गई. Do you think इसकी चार्जिंग वो हीटिंग लेके आना चाहिए मुझे?
Oh, sorry. I'll
charge them on the 0 and then charge again. No, you can do it, but like इसकी बैटरी का how should I charge it?
I think is someone unmuted. I'll just
I think someone didn't want to be unmuted.
So
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
So what I would say is build up a portfolio, and then look out, okay, who are the science publications that you'd like to write for? What's the tone that you'd like to write for? So New Scientist, for example, I know they have on their website a style guide of as how they like their writing portrayed. And if you're on Twitter, there are loads of call out opportunities that say, hello, I'm Jane Smith, I'm looking for pictures about, space, technology, all of that. So just keep an eye out for those. And if you are interested in science writing, there's a brilliant newsletter that comes out every Thursday called the Freelancers Writing Journal. And what it is, it's this one woman, Sian, who every week sends out, these are the people who are commissioning articles this week, send them your pitches. And so there's a whole mixture in there, but I'm seeing more and more science opportunities in there, which is brilliant. And another one is to join the physics SciComm email list if you haven't already, because again, there are brilliant writing opportunities in that, even if it's just copywriters for other companies, things like that. It's all a really good platform just to try and be as connected and see those opportunities come up, and you can nab them quickly.
So is it important to have a very good social media channel, for example, in Twitter or something? Or is that not needed?
I think it helps to be on there. I don't think it has to be super active if you don't want to, but it's just where, because journalism is so quick, people will just post it on there because they know people will be like, oh yeah, I've seen that, let me respond now. So it's just also a good way of finding out who's who with any job, whether that's in academia, in other companies. You need to do your research on, why am I interested in this company? Why am I interested in this job? Why am I interested in this publication? And so Twitter is just a really helpful way of finding out who those people are and who you need to be trying to contact to say, hello, I'm a brilliant science writer, let me write for you.
That's great. I think we had a question for Amy asking what a day in your life looks like. Okay.
Well, actually, like Luisa was saying, that the relaxed academia lifestyle where you can have a bit of a flexi time. A startup is quite nice, or a small company is quite nice, because I would start later in the morning because I would have a bit of a lie-in sometimes. So I would go to the science park, and we have a lab there that we're setting up at the minute. So I'm in charge of that project at the minute, about introducing a new technology and setting that lab up. So I would go and I would check the machines, run some samples, and then I would go across to the main office where my colleagues would be, and I'd still work a lot on production. So I would work with them, do some X-ray imaging, a bit of failure analysis using some of our analysis equipment, and then I would have quite a few calls during the day as well. So I manage subcontractors, so I'd speak to them every day. And yeah, before COVID, I would have been going around the UK quite a bit on visiting subcontractors and going to Germany, Sweden, various other places. And I, as well, because it's a relatively small unit, I work with customers as well. So I would be contacted by customers, speak to them, and quite varied in a day-to-day life. So,
that sounds like a lot of work for a single day.
Yes, it's every day is a little bit of everything. I think at the minute, because I'm transitioning from production engineer to materials engineer, I'm having to do a bit of both. So I'm hoping once we get a production engineer in, then I'll be more focused on the product development, working in the lab more solidly.
Oh, I hope it works out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thank you.
Luisa, we can continue with a question to you. As someone who isn't sure whether they want to do academics or industry, would you still recommend doing a PhD and then deciding from there, or instead working for a bit?
I think to do a PhD, I think you have to be very convinced that you want to do a PhD. Because I mean, I guess you can always leave it if you start and you don't like it, but it is a lot of it's a big commitment to do a PhD, I think. So, but I don't think there's any issue in working first and then going back and doing a PhD. And yes, I think that if you're not sure, first, I would say find what it is that you would like to do in your PhD. If you find a subject that you really, really like, and then you see yourself working on for 3 years, then perhaps. But if you're not sure exactly what you want to do it on and nothing catches you, then yeah, perhaps you should try to find out first what exactly you want to do it on, because otherwise, yeah, it could be very frustrating. But I think, so that going from academia to industry, I think is easy at any point in your career. Going back from industry to academia it is easy if it's to do a PhD. If it's later on, it might be more difficult, because once you leave after your PhD, people are going to be looking at publications, and if you've been away for a while, for a few years in industry, you will not have the publications. So yeah, it might be more difficult. For example, I don't think it'll be easy for me to go back now. I don't know. I have never tried, but yeah. So that's my advice. I don't know what you think, Amy and Izzy.
Well, I'm doing a part-time master's at the minute in research, and I think that's a nice way to do it, because I'm getting a bit of the best of both worlds, and it's funded by the company. And in the future, I still fancy doing a PhD later down the line, but I would prefer to do it with industry. Something like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's also opportunities once you're working. We had somebody in the company doing a master's last year, and he might go and do a PhD, but it would be not full time. Or he could do it. He could leave, and but the company will support him to do it a part time. Yeah.
And can I add something to that? I mean, if you want to do the flip of that, of if you want to do a PhD and you're not sure, what your next step is. When I worked at the Naked Scientists, we had this opportunity where we would have people come on for internships who, as they had to take a break from their PhD to try and do something outside of it. So they'd come and make programs for 5 Live with us for 2 months, and that was part of their PhD. So there are opportunities if you're on the other side of that, being like, well, I want to do a PhD, but I don't know what my next step is after that, then there are also lots of opportunities to do it that way as well.
Okay, so in conclusion, it's easier to transition from academia to industry than the other way around.
Yeah, at least once. Yeah, if you are if you want to go back at a postdoc level, I think yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to keep in mind. Izzy, because we have a few questions about where we can find your podcasts, would it be okay if you share that in the chat?
Yeah, the most central place would probably be my website, and then you can find out which ones are for you, which ones you prefer. So that's just izzyclarke.com, and there's a tab that says podcasts, and even some of the old ones that I've made are in there as well. So you've got a whole lot of choice.
That's really nice. Thank you. Oh, Luisa, do you ever miss academia?
I do miss doing astronomy, I must admit. But I might have come across, when I was talking about it and how I left academia to go into industry, it was not just because of family. I had become a bit disillusioned also with the way, the research that I was doing, in the sense I enjoyed doing research, but it gets to a point in your career when you're, almost going for that you need to be convinced that is the most important thing in the world. And I just could not convince myself that that was the most important thing in the world. So I was talking to my colleagues, and they could talk about their work for hours, and nothing else in the world mattered to them. And I wasn't like that. And I thought, maybe I'm losing it. I don't know. I love it, but I'm not obsessed. And it seemed to me that you needed to be obsessed to continue. So I miss it. I miss doing astronomy, but I do it and I can still do it at an amateur level. I'm not sure I could defend my work like I was defending it all those years back when I was doing research in a conference, for example.
Well, you need to train for that, I guess.
Yeah.
As we're almost out of time, can I ask you each to give advice to our participants in just about a sentence? For
me, it would be, don't give up. If you love it, stay. There's many ways of doing physics, and don't let anybody push you out of this.
Okay, Izzy?
I would say, yeah, do what you love, whatever form that takes, and you'll find the career for you, and you'll do it that bit better because you're really enjoying it.
Thank you. And Amy?
Yeah, I'd say you deserve to follow your interests and ambitions, and you'll do best if you do something you love.
Thank you all so much. We'll post the link for GatherTown in the chat. So if you didn't manage to get answer to your question, make sure you go there to chat with Izzy, Luisa, and Amy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.